in Ravio.com. Internet, radio, TV, in Ravio.com. Broadcasting to 6.8 billion people. Streaming 24/7 in Ravio.com.
Stop putting it off and start painting it up today at Ben's Paint Station, featuring Benjamin Moore Paints, Sickens, wood finishes, paints, and professional paint supplies, ideal for contractors and homeowners, stain paints and epoxies, family owned and operating, in business for over 55 years, professional and experienced help, located at 2 locations, 55B Route 25, Quorum, Long Island, New York, and 1495 Plaza Montauk Highway, Mastic, New York. Call them at 775-7435 and 775-8135. Ben's Paint Station, featuring Benjamin Moore Paints. Log on to the Radio Advertisers page today.
Rich's Bay Diner and Restaurant. Steaks, chops, wraps, breakfast skillets. The Mauritius Bay, 62 Montauk Highway in Mauritius, New York. 878-6827. The Mauritius Bay Diner and Restaurant in New York. I get so lost.
Hey there, I'm Dave Camford, your host of Nerdgasm, and I assure you I was not looking at porn. To my left, I have Peppercorn Montgomery, and to my right, I have... What is your name anyway? It's Nelly Nells on Facebook. What is your name? What do I call you?
My real name?
You know, what do I call you?
Chanel Winbush.
How do you wind up as Nelly on Facebook?
Well, I'm Nelly, Chanel, Nelly.
People should really use their real names. I do.
Yeah. That's right, Peppercorn. People should only use their real names. So tonight, this is our last episode of 2013, and we are going to be dealing with something that only nerds really feel passionate about.
Christmas.
That's right. Now, unfortunately, I'm not a nerd, so I'm not all that passionate about this material. But we're going to be talking about Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, now that The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, is out in theaters. And this is also our year-end Christmas, New Year's episode. How we're going to tie it in is we're going to read from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Peppercorn, you take it away.
No.
Okay, we won't be doing that.
Please, people need to hear my beautiful baritone reading this book.
So now we have some phenomenal guests calling in. We have someone named Steve Cuden. Okay, now I know I'm bastardizing his name. I don't know any better here. So now, if we're going to connect with Steven on why is the cameras focused on Nelly and Peppercorn when Dave Campfield is doing the talking?
Because we're so much cuter than you.
Plus, I have a beautiful glow around me.
You lie. Take it. So first of all, if you guys follow us on Facebook, which you should, you would have seen a very heated debate that emerged today, just the other day. And on behalf, I think things got a little out of control. Joe Winchell was mentioning Kanye West, and things got ugly. I called Peppercorn a pretentious James Lipton wannabe. I'm sorry, Peppercorn, because clearly no one wants to be James Lipton.
Not even James Lipton.
I threatened to burn Joe's house down. Nelly, I involved you.
Did you?
Yeah. I defecated in your car. And Matt, I added your name to the terrorist watch list. I'm sorry, things got ugly. So make sure to follow us on Facebook/Nerdgasm Official
And Dave
for all
will
these.
insult you
That's right. That's right. Well, no, if you're lucky.
if he gives you that attention.
Right. So we have our first caller. We have Stephen via Skype. Let's throw him a hello, Stephen.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I became aware of you a number of years ago, and I've been wanting to have you on this show. And the film that I saw of yours was a little movie called Lucky. And you were the writer and director on this thing, and I thought that this thing had such a wicked wit. You know, I love the filmmaking, I love the style, and yet that was the last time I'm aware of you directing. Yet your filmography is insane. I was inviting you on the show without realizing the wealth of material that you've written. You know, I think I had heard it sometime before, but we're talking about anything from Gargoyles to Street Fighter, a lot of animated shows, Iron Man, X-Men. You're fired!
Hi, Joe.
Okay.
Dave, I can't take credit for having written Lucky. That was Steve Cuden. I did direct it and I co-produced it with Steve, but I didn't write it. So,
So you are but then again, that was just our co-host entering the show. Well, a little bit late. So you
and I missed the whole thing.
So you, as a director on this, obviously shaped a lot of the screenplay. How did you wind up as you're known as a writer primarily, the co-writer. You're an author of a book. You're the co-writer on a number of shows. How did you wind up in the director's chair for this particular?
Well, that was just happenstance. There was around the year 2000. There was an actors' strike in the commercial actors world, and there were three of us that were friends. Steve Cuden, who wrote the script, me, I've been a writer forever, but I have always wanted to direct a film, and Mike Emanuel, who stars in the movie as Millard Mudd. All three of us were friends, and we all pooled our resources and decided to make this crazy little movie for pretty much no money at all. Because Michael was out of work because he was a commercial actor, and Steve and I were, doing what we always do, which is always looking for something to do. So when you're a freelance writer, when you're a freelance person in the entertainment industry, you're always hunting down something. Well, this was an opportunity to perhaps showcase our work. I think it did a pretty good job of that, although I don't know that it translated so well into the world of Hollywood. So the answer is, finding the work is relatively easy. Having it turn into something bigger was a little bit more of a challenge.
Now, have you collaborated on a number of other projects before?
I have. I have collaborated on any number of things. I was Frank Wildhorn's musical theater collaborator, writing partner for almost 10 years. Frank, who has written not only Jekyll and Hyde, but Scarlet Pimpernel and the Civil War, Dracula, and Bonnie and Clyde, and a number of other shows. He and I don't work together anymore, but we were collaborators for a long time. And Steve Cuden, who wrote Lucky, he and I have written a number of spec feature films, and I've worked with him on a lot of different projects. So yes, I've done a lot of collaborating.
Matt, in control room, could you throw up the picture of the DVD art for Lucky, which is it's a black comedy. It is extremely different than anything I'm assuming that you're most known for. But
in terms of the horror world, yes, for sure.
Now, your filmography, it just reads like a nerd's dream. It's how exactly did you begin? How did you become part of the animated world, writing scripts for so many shows, anything from Beetlejuice, Pink Panther, X-Men, Iron Man, Gargoyles, a lot of the Disney things. I mean, how did that begin, and how did you wind up? How did one cartoon lead to another? Because I wasn't even aware that this sort of writers, I'm assuming, get I don't want to use the word pigeonholed.
Yeah, but you do. You absolutely do get pigeonholed, and That was also a degree of luck. I had been writing for a very long time, as many writers in Hollywood do, without finding work. And it was one of those circumstances where a friend of mine said, "Hey, they're looking for writers right now at Disney TV Animation." That was on a show called, that was not Goof Troop, it was Bonkers at the time. And somebody said, "Hey, they're looking for writers over here. Are you interested?" I said, "Sure, I'll come in and pitch." That led to an assignment. In that world, in the animation world, it has been like this for a long time, where one tends to lead to another. If you're a decent writer and they like you and you get along with people and you deliver on time and the work is not total mess, it does lead to more work.
You set the bar very low. So long as you just show up and you give them words and you're not unconscious or slap people around, you get hired for more work. Now, you have so many different types of shows. I mean, which of the shows that you've been involved with, I mean, RoboCop even, were you the biggest fanboy of? You know, because I'm sure one of these things that came up was like, oh, great, you know, I love RoboCop or Ghostbusters. You know, what of the work that you've done were you a legitimate fan of?
Well, I had been writing a long time, but I certainly was a fan of the X-Men when I wrote my X-Men script. But later, it took a while to get there, but when I finally started working for Warner Brothers, that was a really big deal to me, because I've always been a big Warner Brothers fan. And so writing on the Batman and Lunatics Unleashed, Shaolin Showdown certainly was, I wasn't a big fan of the show because it wasn't around all that long when I got on it. I'd only been around for a year. But certainly the Batman was a big deal for me. And when I wrote Lunatics Unleashed, I kind of knew I'd arrived after, 16, 17 years of writing, when I could write, What's Up, Doc? And I taught Putty Tat. I did taught Putty Tat. I knew that was something. But certainly when you go back to the hardcore boy stuff, it's got to be X-Men, Iron Man, those shows.
Favorite X-Men character before I move on to Jekyll and Hyde?
Oh, that's easy. It's Wolverine, who was created by my good friend Len Wein. So.
Wow. Okay. Now, how exactly Jekyll and Hyde the musical? We all at this table know what that is. I mean, how did you get involved? Did it start with you? Did it end with you? I mean, as far as the writing is concerned, how did that all come about? Because that's you're talking Broadway now versus animated shows.
Yeah, that's right. Although, isn't it interesting that though that's my big Broadway, the big Broadway title that I have, it too is in the fantasy, in the Nerdgasm world. Jekyll and Hyde certainly in there. The answer is that when I graduated from USC with a degree in the theater 120 years ago, just after the Civil War, and
I think you might be exaggerating just a little bit by a century.
Anyway, I had met Frank Wildhorn at USC, and he and I got together and started chatting about various shows. He and I had written a couple of different shows that will never see the light of day prior to starting on Jekyll and Hyde.
The Frankenstein musical and the Dracula comedy.
Yeah, well, it was literally a couple of years after Stephen Sondheim had written Sweeney Todd, and it was on the boards, and Frank and I were looking for what could we do that's in the Gothic horror vein. That was really intrigued us both. And so we looked at Phantom of the Opera 6-7 years before Andrew Lloyd Webber came out with his. We talked about that for a while. We looked at Dracula. We looked at Frankenstein. We looked at the Wolfman. And what we realized is that Robert Louis Stevenson's book, which most people think they know but really don't, because that book is a very thin novella. It's only 100 pages long. And there are no women in it. There's no love story in it. There's not really a plot in that book to hang a story on. And so we realized that it did lend itself to this notion of one man who's two with two different female characters, one for Jekyll, one for Hyde, and it lent itself to that naturally, and that's where we started.
And I'm sure it must have become a dream come true when you finally got to work with David Hasselhoff. Now we have a panel here and they all have a question for you. everybody knows your work. Show them. So we're going to start with Nelly.
I'd really like to know what it was like working for Disney. I'm a big Disney fanatic.
For Disney,
Yeah.
Disney's an interesting experience. Almost everybody that goes in there goes in with pixie dust in their eyes. Just about everybody. You go, oh my God, I'm at Disney. And after you're there for a little while, I know all of you have had the experience of working at a job. It becomes a job.
Yeah.
It's really a great experience in this way. When Disney has a problem, they throw money at it. So you always get solutions to whatever the problems are. You're not hurting for those solutions because there's no funding for it. So Disney, I was there for 2 years at Disney TV Animation, and I wrote Gargoyles after I was on staff at Disney. So it was always a pleasure to work for them. And at the same time, it's like anything else. You do enough of something over a long enough period of time, and it just becomes part of your life. I don't know if that answered your question.
No.
It did.
Oh, that's
It
great.
did. Thank you.
Peppercorn?
You're welcome.
Hi, Steve. Just to get back to the theater, since you've definitely covered all the major areas of writing for stage, screen, television, have you written comics too?
No, that's one. It's interesting. Like I said, I'm good friends with Len Wein, who's pretty well known for comics. I'm also really good friends with Marv Wolfman, who's also quite well known for comics. And I've known a number of comic books people. I'm very good friends with Wendy Pini, who created and still writes ElfQuest. The answer is no. It's one of the oddball things. Even though I've known these folks all my life and have written a lot of stuff that's related to the world of comics, I've never written for comic books.
Right. Are you? Do you have any other musicals that you want to try to put together? I know you have a book coming out that I read a little bit about. I didn't get a chance to read it, although it sounds really interesting.
Interestingly enough, it's already been out. It's out. It's called Broadway: How to Create Stories for Musicals That Get Standing Ovations, and it's available on Amazon right now. It's on BarnesandNoble.com. You can get it at if you're in New York City, you can get it at Theater Circle. You can get it at the Drama Bookshop.
Right.
In Los Angeles, you can get it at Samuel
Mm-hmm.
French. I'm sorry, the question is about have I got other musicals?
Yeah.
And
Do
the
you have any
answer
other projects you're looking forward to?
yes, the answer is yes, and those are very slow to go. They take a very long time to put together. They take a really long time to write and even longer to get produced. Jekyll and Hyde, if you know that history at all, that show took 17 years from inception to get to Broadway.
Wow.
So they're rarely overnight. The average Broadway show today takes anywhere from 6 to 12 years. Just depends upon what's going on. So there are a couple that I'm working on right now that I actually can't divulge too much about, but
Jekyll and Hyde too.
well, yes, he comes back from the grave.
And it's going to be David Hasselhoff. It has to be.
Please say no.
Hasselhoff is good in that part.
Well,
No, I haven't seen it. He just is. And Leslie, Joe, do you have a question for?
I do. I was probably, at least in my circle of friends, I was probably one of the only fans of the Batman. And I know you wrote the episode with Superman, and I was just wondering what it was like working on that and what prompted you to take the direction with the characters that you did.
which character, Batman or Superman?
Both. Mainly Superman, because I think that was his first episode in the show.
Well, okay, so that particular episode, my friend Alan Burnett, who's a producer at Warner Brothers, been a producer there a long time and one of the great writers of animation of all time, he invited me in to do the episode. He wrote part one, I wrote part two.
Oh, okay.
And so he sort of set it up, he teed it up, and I, hit it down the fairway. That's how that works frequently in that business. Sometimes you generate your own work. Sometimes they come to you. It's always a really grand thing when somebody says to you, hey, we've got a story. Would you come write it? Yeah, I'll do that. That's a lot easier than me thinking it up.
And lastly, do you ever hear when you're dealing with you hand a script off to the producer, Superman wouldn't say that, or Batman wouldn't say that? You ever get that note back?
Absolutely. It's even. I'll tell you where it's more amusing. It's somewhat amusing. Is that me? No. It's somewhat amusing when that happens when you're writing a known character. But it's even more amusing when everyone in the room is working on a brand new show and no one knows the characters, and someone says that character wouldn't say that.
Well, it's been wonderful having you on as a guest tonight, man. I mean, you're the kind of guest you're going to have on for hours. So you have a great holiday and New Year's, and thank you so much for coming on. Everybody check out his book, his movie, and all the work that he's been involved with. You're living the dream.
Thanks so much to all of you. Have a great holiday.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
We are going to go to our second guest now. This is Joe Zurell, who is the director of Christmas Cadaver. And we have him on the phone, unless he hung up while he was waiting. Is Joe with us? Is Joe amongst the living? Joe. Christmas Cadaver is a film that, oh, I see his picture. Christmas Cadaver is a film that I became aware of my film was playing at the Friday Night Film Festival, and mine's a Christmas horror comedy, and there's this other Christmas horror comedy playing alongside me. Joe, are you there?
Yeah, I can hardly hear you.
Okay, we'll talk really loudly.
All right, great.
I'll be like your grandparents. Hi, Joe.
Hi,
Okay,
I can hear
okay.
you better there when you yell.
So you made this you made a film pretty much in the same genre that I did. Yours deals with yours deals with cadavers. Mine deals with Killer Santa Claus. The comedy horror, comedy Christmas horror film. Now, I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to help you. I wanted to get the word out about it. It came out. Was it released last Christmas? Christmas of 2012.
Yeah, it came out last year, yeah. But we had it done for several years before that, or a year or so before that.
You mean because like the 1970s, since it looks so grindhouse, you made it back then?
Yeah, it came out in 1970 before I was born.
Yeah, because the film looks very grindhouse. So that's the idea. Well, you did an amazing job doing that, as somebody who was not born yet. Now, one of the things I really liked about your film is your lead actor was fairly unconventional as an action hero. I guess maybe a little inspired by Simon Pegg in Shaun of the Dead. So
Yeah.
how did you find this guy?
Well, I went to college in Iowa area, and he became my roommate. And he was going into theater, and it was just happenstance that we became roommates, and then he went off and went in to get his master's in acting in Chicago, and that's where he found a lot of his other friends, the drunk and the cop in it as well.
So the criteria for getting that role was sharing a room with you.
Well, yeah. Well, we talked a lot about it, and it became a thing where we always talked about doing stuff, and we did little things here and there. And then finally it became, let's do something that would be a little bit bigger in scope, and that's what we ended up coming up with because we thought it would be fun.
And where can people find this? Like somebody wants to rent, buy, or whatever. Where's the best place for them to do so?
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I want to rent and buy this. Where can I find this? This looks awesome.
Well, I mean, right now I think they're still selling it on Amazon for only $5.
Are you doing the instant watch?
I think there's an instant watch too.
Okay, cool.
I don't know what the price is for that or any of that. So
I trust you.
It makes a great double feature with Cesar Renato's Deadly Xmas. We both have the same line in there, Merry Christmas, mother effer.
Yeah, but this looks so much better.
It's probably a popular line.
This guy who just said that wants to be the lead in my next film. We'll have to test that. So lastly, because we're going to have to go to into our Lord of the Rings dorkdom in just a moment here. What do you do with that dead weight T-shirt in your profile picture there?
Do you know of Deadweight?
Yeah, I met the filmmakers at the Elvira Horror Hunt. We were all
cool.
up for. He and I were up for best picture there.
Yeah, I ran into John Pata, one of the directors of Deadweight, at a festival, and we bonded over Kurt Russell, our mutual love for Kurt Russell. So
We all love Kurt Russell.
Could have been an interesting Han Solo,
So would have Tom Selleck.
Yeah, well, no, he wasn't. Tom Selleck wasn't up for
They
it.
considered
He was
him
up for
too.
Indiana Jones.
They went both.
But Kurt Russell almost got almost got Han Solo. Anyway, so you have a wonderful Christmas, and
too.
really enjoyed your film, and recommend it to pretty much anybody that could appreciate wacky, off the wall comedy horror films.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you
All
here.
right, bye.
Now we're going to get into the content of tonight's show. We're going to get into the thrust of tonight's show, Lord of the Rings. We're going to start off with Lord of the Rings and work our way into The Hobbit. So if Matt in Control Room will throw up the trailer for Lord of the Rings in the background, this is a trailer that showcases pieces from all of the original trilogy. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to throw it off to you, Tim. I'll get to my thoughts in a moment. I want to hear, we'll go chronologically. We'll start with Fellowship, and we'll work our way into the rest of it.
Well, this was a project that, what do you call it? They put 20, 25 years into trying to get these movies made. They originally tried out...
Wasn't it since the mid-'60s at one point? Or
There was actually, there was even talk of it way back then. And then,
animated feature.
Yeah. In the late 70s and early 80s, they had actually done the animated movies, the animated Hobbit, and then Ralph Bakski's. So this was from when I was like in middle school, I remember hearing they were always, we're going to make it, we're going to make Lord of the Rings and stuff. So this took forever to come out. And I know I speak for myself and for any Lord of the Rings fan, this was we couldn't wait for this day to come.
It was like Star Wars was being released. I'll never forget it.
Yes, only the difference is, this delivered. and didn't
Compared
make me
to
hate
Phantom
everything
Menace.
else that was Star Wars. But yes, no, the first movie was, I remember seeing it, I remember buying my tickets 2 weeks in advance and stuff, and just being completely mesmerized by what happened. The world that Peter Jackson had built and created was amazing. I mean, that's just coming at it from the fanboy perspective. And for right now, I'm going to stick with just the fanboy's perspective. I know, Nelly, you seem like you like these movies too.
Oh, just the
You like Lord of the Rings?
touch. I actually went to the midnight showing of every single movie.
Yeah.
And I plan to keep
Well,
doing
when
it.
you have that much expectation as you're going into the first Lord of the Rings movie, what is it like? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I doubt that upon first viewing you're like, that's perfect. It must take a little time to finally, take it as.
Not so much, because the way Peter Jackson did it, I think that he really took from the book, like when he created the actual world. Like when I was watching it, I felt like when I was reading it, I felt like I was, I saw everything that he was doing.
Yes.
Even though he put, his little things in there and stuff like that. But otherwise, like world-wise, the detail, the makeup and stuff was amazing. Like I felt like I was there.
It was completely an immersive experience. And I think one of the things that real big fans of Lord of the Rings love about it that not so much big fans sort of complain about all the time is that it is exceptionally detailed, and Peter Jackson, to say he took his time with these movies it's definitely true. I mean, it's detailed. He covers everything from the traveling to stopping, a 20-minute scene about them getting a drink, all that stuff. But if you love these characters and you're engaged in them and you feel they're a part of you and stuff and part of your family, that's what you want. But as the casual viewer, it's a little drawn out, or feels a little drawn out. And they do have a valid claim to that.
I feel like this series of movies is one of the few series of movies where it's almost a prerequisite that you read the books, because I feel like those who love this were people who were fans of the book. And for me, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if it's because of the age I first saw this. When I first saw Star Wars, I was a little child. Star Wars, to me, I felt delivered more on a human level. This, to me, I don't like these characters as much. And I'm going to say that all of these films, I think that this, to me, what separates this series of films from the original Star Wars trilogy is one is a good trilogy and one is a great trilogy. It just speaks to me much more, and I find it so much more interesting. These films are too goddamn long. 3-something hours, and it's like, I heard of a damn editor. Yeah, I have an issue with the pacing of it.
I think you're lacking imagination.
I lack imagination, but everything I
think
like
you-
is fantasy. No, that is an
This is a
complete-
mystical sword fighting journey.
Sure. Why did I like Star Wars so much better then? Well, maybe because those characters, I mean, everybody's sort of speaking in this faux Shakespeare. I don't want to say faux Shakespeare. There's an awkwardness to the language. Not that there's certainly an awkwardness to the prequel trilogy language, but I don't.
Yes, it just doesn't
feel-
read as smoothly as Lucas dialogue. You know, that is the problem.
Well,
You know, it
can-
doesn't
you
have
can make
that
argument.
sharp
You can
wit
make that
that
argument,
Lucas brings.
but I felt that when you're dealing with the Star, and the debate always seems to be, you know, Star Wars versus Lord of the Rings, which is a very strange debate.
Well, you
because they
just brought
both-
up the debate. So.
No, but that's why it's just odd that it automatically goes there. But I just feel that.
Well,
I
the
really
two
liked-
great trilogies in the sci-fi fantasy realm. Listen, Star Wars is very different. This first Star Wars movie is a very simple story. I mean, it wasn't the original idea, but for the films, but it was a very simple story.
No, I actually just read some of the issues they put out the original script.
Oh, the Star Wars.
It is
Yeah.
immensely different.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, just reading the synopsis of it, it was amazingly different. But, I mean, the first Star Wars movie is, you know, you have the young hero and the pirate and the old wizard and stuff, and they go fight the Black Knight to save the princess.
There's a lot of
and so-
similar elements. A lot of similar elements, and
Yeah.
I think that there was something about that trio of characters, and there was something a little more relatable. I felt more like as a kid I could identify with say Luke Skywalker, and I could aspire to be a Han Solo. Where you have Viggo Mortensen. It's not to say that these films aren't good, because they are, but they just happen to be a little colder to me, and I don't find that content quite as interesting. And I'm never going to say that any of the Lord of the Rings
I mean,
movies
one of
are bad.
the problems with the film, it's not a problem
Lord of the
with the
Rings?
film, with the Lord of the Rings films. I mean, Star Wars, you're dealing with essentially 3 major characters and some tertiary characters that definitely play off of them. With the Lord of the Rings, I mean, you're dealing with it's Aragorn, it's Legolas, it's Gimli, backstories, it's Frodo, it's Merry and Pip. I mean, it's the 9 members of the Fellowship and their journey, and then more people they meet that become major parts of that.
Right, but you think it'd be easier to find a character to identify with since you have such a nice big fellowship.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, when you look at the
He doesn't want to tell
antagonists,
us that he loves Gimli.
and you look at the antagonists are kind of the more mysterious, which is cool, Sauron and all that. But
Yeah, I mean, I think
Sal-
one of the things is the villain, the main villain, Sauron, is just becomes, well, he basically is just a giant floating evil presence, as opposed to...
Omnipotent being.
Yeah, he
He's
doesn't really...
everywhere and he can see all.
He's sort of basically what the Emperor is in the first 2 Star Wars movies, but in the third one, you get the actual Emperor. So that's always something that sort of feels cheated out of the end of that, is that there's no, I don't know.
Payoff.
Yeah,
You never get to see what,
right, exactly.
I remember thinking that when I saw that movie when I saw the third film, when I saw the last film, I remember thinking, because I hadn't read the books, I'm not, but I remember, because I the first one, I'm like, second one I loved, and the third one I'm in there, and I remember thinking, I'm like, wow, I'm finally going to get to see what this thing looks like, and it's a little bad. It's not very climactic.
I was a fan, but the third movie, it feels like an endurance challenge,
Yeah.
and
That
I
was a tough
love these
watch.
characters.
It
I
was a
love
bit
these
drawn
stories.
out. I can give that.
That was,
Remember
that movie
That
was
one.
very, very drawn
It's
out.
Yes,
Probably-
I could take the scene
There
with
was
Frodo
9
and Sam.
different endings.
Return of the King to
They
me.
got on a boat, don't know why. I guess Sam can't go, though.
Return of the King to me was probably one of my very least favorite Best Pictures, and they probably gave.
Wait, what?
It won
No, I
best,
didn't hear- what'd you say?
So Return of the King for me was probably one of my least favorite Best Pictures.
Yeah.
Academy
I mean, that
Awards.
Oh, okay. I
Before
thought
the
you were
trip.
like, it's the best and the least at the same time.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of ironic because that sure as hell makes it a lot better than Biodoom. But at the same time, as in the competition that it has, it's not a film that I love. And again, I would just wonder if I was a 10-year-old and if I was watching Lord of the Rings, would I look at it differently, like as I was as a young child looking at Star Wars? It's so hard to say because you come to different points in your life and you're looking at something fresh, and do you retain with you this sense of wonder that you had when you originally watched something? Of course, that all changed. Like there's other things in my life that I saw as a kid that have changed dramatically, but that wasn't one of them. And I have how does everybody feel about Elijah Wood? Because that's.
I think he was a great Frodo.
I didn't like him. I liked him as an actor.
Why would you like him?
It's
I didn't hate him, but I didn't.
I think it's the direction they took. I mean, very early on in the films, Frodo sort of has the weight of the ring playing on him. So there's very short time in the very beginning of the first film where you sort of get to really know Frodo for what he is, as opposed to just being the guy who's carrying the ring and who's got the weight of the world literally hanging from his neck. And I think that, as it progresses on, it's hard to really. I mean, I feel like character-wise and for people, Samwise is the one you sort of root for. I mean, he's the closest thing to your everyman character.
Yeah, he would be the
that
everyman
is your gateway character into the world.
He's your Goonie character.
Yes.
Everybody loves Sam.
Yeah.
Sam was the best friend. Everybody can identify with that.
Yeah.
He's the Ben Affleck to the Matt Damon.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I guess so. Or the Matt Damon.
I'll let you. You can have that.
I happen to. In this series, I think the one that I enjoyed the most was Two Towers.
I think that's everybody's. You ask a non-Lord of the Rings, and I'm not, but
Okay, maybe that's
I'm not a Lord of the
probably-
Rings fan. But the general consensus is that everybody loves that second film. I know, I like it.
It's my favorite of the three.
It's awesome.
I think that there's moments of just between father and daughter with the Liv Tyler character that I thought it was so much stronger than what they tried doing in the next movie, even though they're all shot at the same time. But then the father-daughter moments that they had in Two Towers were kind of beautiful, and I think that as a whole it felt the best. There's something that Jackson does as a director that sort of bugs me. He stages a lot of I think like extras are over directed unless it's a second unit director that's doing this, but like it's like whenever they're showing like crowds of hobbits, I feel like they're always overacting, and when he directs a lot of scenes, he stages too closely to be in the camera. Maybe that's a preference thing on my part, but it makes me feel, as an audience member, awkward. When I feel like someone's looking too closely into the camera, it's like, it pulls me out of the film. And I think
Makes me
Jackson
feel like I'm in the film.
I was going to say, but you think the scenes with the hobbits are too overacted? They're hobbits.
In
They're
moments,
happy.
in
Like,
moments.
about-
Well, there's. Well, I mean, I'm
talking
really
about,
talking. I'm not talking about
Hobbiton or-
I'm talking about not the primary characters. I'm talking about like when there's a shot of like hobbits laughing, being
Right.
jovial. That it feels like awkward.
It feels like there are happy small people. That
Isn't there no
feels
happiness
like-
in your life, Dave? Do you not
Right.
know what happiness
No,
is, Dave?
it feels like somebody's over directing the actors. But I mean, I'm not going to call it a bad film at all. It's a staple of sort of. I guess he's going for the Kubrick thing. Like Stanley Kubrick, you look at what he does in some of his scenes. They're exaggerated, and
Well, I think I mean, Peter Jackson, if you've watched enough Peter Jackson movies, you know that this man is exceptionally detail-oriented and very immersive in his work, to almost a bizarre level at certain times. And so I could definitely see that, where it's all, he didn't just want the extras to be standing there in costume, but, he wanted them to be fully immersed. And
Everybody is doing something,
Right.
and
Yeah.
not for nothing. I was just talking about this the other night. I like an active. I want to see that people are doing stuff in the background. Maybe it's just because.
Well, an extra will get a close-up and completely ham it up. There's a lot.
actors
Well,
are
that's your
handsome.
chance to completely
Well, that's your
ham it
job
up.
as a director. I got the feeling that Jackson's kind of the opposite, where it's like, a lot of directors would be like,
The
"Okay,
problem
we're
is
gonna
they're
bring
all
that
from
down."
New Zealand. We just don't
Yeah,
understand.
exactly. We don't understand. Dave, you need to go in there and be
Kiwi.
under director.
If we were living on the bottom of the world, we would understand.
It's true,
We're just too northern hemisphered.
I mean, it could be simply, that's like, of
No,
all,
it's a
of
fair
all
point.
Of the,
I-
of
it is
all
a
of
fair
the
point,
dwarf
yeah.
actors in New Zealand, they all act like that. And, and he
The
just
next
gave
time you
up.
direct dwarf actors, Dave, you'll tell them what's what.
Oh, trust me, like, to direct a film like that, you're directing. It's not like you're doing a micro-budget film with a crew of 5 people.
No,
He's directing an army.
5,000.
He's
yeah.
directing an army, and hats off to the guy.
And I mean,
So-
these films were all directed at they were all made at the same time. There was
all
no-
3 were made at the same time, or I thought just the last 2 they were made literally back
No,
to
the
back.
All
entire
three-
film
all
series
three
he
was
shot.
made together.
And that's what's kind of interesting about, like, we seem to feel that the second one is the best. And I talk to people who think the second one's the worst one. The opinions are all over the map. I mean, maybe it's more the purists that feel that the second one is the least.
The Empire Strikes Back, The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I say that's a fair comparison. And
Well, I think the reason that the second one really works for me is because it the story centers on
was so good though.
is Aragon's story, and then dealing with with helping out the I can't think of the name of the people.
Rohan?
Rohan, thank you. Totally blank.
You're welcome.
Damn it! Why didn't someone bring an encyclopedia? Anyway,
Samarillion?
with that story, and it's a
I don't know what
fantastic
the
story.
character is.
Are we talking the
And I don't know. For some reason, it just works on it. It's the right size scale for these movies. I can totally get into the battle.
The battle is amazing.
Yeah. By the time it gets to the Return of
Gandalf's
the King,
character, that's
yeah.
when everybody really starts to like. At least
Yeah.
for me, that was like Gandalf is.
Yeah, when he
badass.
comes back as Gandalf the White.
White.
Yeah.
The problem with Return of the King is with the battle at in that one, and then as it progresses, it just seems so big. It almost seems too big.
Yeah.
It's hard to just. It becomes like the opening of
Return of the Sith, Return of the Sith, right.
Where I'm
Yeah.
just like, there's so much crap going on
Yeah.
that I couldn't care less. Like there's no person, there's no one in the mud in the fight who I'm rooting for. It's just big crap going on everywhere.
Too many moving parts.
Yeah, and it's just like, wow, you can do that on film.
Any closing thoughts? Because this is really an episode where we're gonna take on the Hobbit, next. But any closing thoughts on the original trilogy? I'm gonna definitely say that one day I will rewatch it. I think that
You probably should take 2 days.
Probably borrow my beautiful extended edition.
Second thought,
Can I
take
see that?
3 days.
I won't break it. Come on.
For me,
Let me touch
Can I have some
it. Just
beer?
let me touch it.
for me, it's a series. It doesn't have a whole lot of rewatchability for me, and I have to sort
It's
of,
actually pretty cool.
I have to sort
It's
of,
pretty cool.
I do throw it on when it's up.
I want to give it another chance. One time. I'll never call them bad films. They're just good films to me. But when I hear people compare it to The Godfather, I get sick.
Who compares to The Godfather?
Who the hell are your
Have you been
friends?
hanging out with James
Slide
Cameron,
them
who
up.
compared Avatar to The Godfather?
Not quite. So, but any closing thoughts on Return of the King?
You mean the whole series?
No, yeah, pretty much the whole series.
Or are we
before
starting
go to
from
commercial
like
break.
are we Tarantinoing and doing the end to the beginning?
Watch them all, but turn it off right as the ring goes into the volcano.
No, I believe you
sorry, I
should end
spoiled
that
the end,
movie
I
on
just
the
realized
note
that.
when they all bow to them. When Aragorn gets the crown, they should have ended right there. There was 5 other endings.
But
going
my
on.
issues with that film go beyond.
This is
go
so
beyond
cool.
just the multiple endings.
What's
I
that?
just don't. I think it just happens to be the weakest of the. Maybe Jackson was burned out. Maybe by the time we got to Return of the King, he's like, I just think this thing's finished already.
I mean, he essentially directed a 10-hour movie.
Yeah, basically.
He had a right to be burnt out.
Yeah, it's not like, well, damn him for being. He just did.
I could just imagine, Pete, what do you want to do in this scene? I don't care.
I don't care. Just
My eyes have been bleeding for a week.
exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. He lost all that weight between making the 2 trilogies.
I'm sure he did.
He lost. He went from being
Okay,
A
well,
lot of
Hello,
cocaine
drug.
to stay up that late. Yeah, Tim knows.
So he was really at his heaviest, and then he lost all that weight, and then he's like back. He gained it all back as he's doing the Hobbit
Our lovable
trilogy.
fat Peter Jackson is back.
Because he got to hang out with hobbits.
That's right. He's exacting their lifestyle.
It's all that cheap.
He didn't shoot these 2 films nearly. Didn't nearly take as long.
The Hobbit
Of
film?
course not, you can
That's
tell.
that's. I think
Well,
it's a little
all
bit-
the
it's a
sets
little
were
bit
rebuilt.
debatable.
So.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to go to a commercial break right now. When we come back, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. We're going to be dealing with Hobbit. We got Nelly's our news girl this week, and she's going to be having
She's gonna
some
do it
fun
live?
trivia. She's going to do it live.
Should we
see you in a
not
moment.
tease her?
I haven't been.
InRavio.com. Internet, radio, TV. InRavio.com. Broadcasting to 6.8 billion people. Streaming 24/7. InRavio.com.
Stop putting it off and start painting it up today at Ben's Paint Station, featuring Benjamin Moore Paints, Sickens, wood finishes, paints, and professional paint supplies, ideal for contractors and homeowners, stain paints and epoxies, family owned and operating, in business for over 55 years, professional and experienced help, located at 2 locations, 55B Route 25, Quorum, Long Island, New York, and 1495 Plaza, Montauk Highway, Mastic, New York. Call them at 770 775-7435 and 775-8135. Ben's Paint Station featuring Benjamin Moore Paints. Log on to the Radio Advertisers page today.
Moriches Bay Diner and Restaurant. Steaks, chops, wraps, breakfast skillets. The Moriches Bay, 62 Montauk Highway in Moriches, New York. 878-6827. The Moriches Bay Diner and Restaurant in New York.
Hey, dude, it's me again. You know, Village Music Shop in Mastic. Anyway, you all know my dog, Mr. Big. Yeah. Well, dudes and dudettes, Village Music Shop has been in business for over 37 years, serving musicians with the best products and service around. Oh. They have private lessons on all instruments and in all styles of music in their new state-of-the-art digital teaching studios, or the excellent sales and service of guitars, drums, school band instruments, amps, PAs, as well as sheet music, books, and accessories. Basically, dudes, everything musical. Right, Big? Yeah. Chill out. Village Music has rentals on all instruments, even PA systems for your parties and barbecues. Oh, cool. Dudes, Village Music Shop never has a sale on stuff because every day our prices are lower than all the competition. Stores, internet, whatever, guaranteed. Yeah. So come to Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Phone 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Anyway.
After all the tracks are in the boxes.
Hi, welcome back to Nerdgasm. My name is Joe Winchell, this is Peppercorn Montgomery, and this is Dave Canfield. At the end of the table, that is Nelly Nells. This is our Nerd Girl news for tonight. For the first time in Nerdgasm history, she's going to be doing the Nerdgasm Nerd Girl live.
There will be a live Nerdgasm tonight.
So can we get a nice close-up? That's
Money shot.
I'm reading.
Okay.
What are you reading, Tim?
Our nerd trivia headlines tonight have everything to do with Lord of the Rings.
So, our first one is Daniel Day-Lewis and Nicolas Cage both turned down the role of Aragorn.
Sex it up a little bit more. We need you to tell this.
Could you really imagine Nicolas Cage playing Aragorn?
I think that would be
I just heard the moan.
He had to turn it down because of family obligations.
Wait, he was the first pick? I'm sorry, I just didn't know that.
Daniel Day-Lewis was the
Daniel
first.
Day-Lewis was.
Then Nicolas
Second.
Cage.
Continue.
Who was actually picked for the role was Stuart Townsend. He was originally given the role of Aragorn. They actually started filming, but then Peter Jackson realized he was too young to play it and got an older actor, Viggo Mortensen.
He realized while they were filming he was too young?
Yep.
Well, I couldn't tell from the first 10 conversations we had. It was only until we started rolling the cameras I realized you were young.
Yes, only once money was spent.
Did he shoot?
Could he figure
Did they
it out?
shoot with him?
Yes, they actually did some filming with him.
Oh my God, this guy's 10 years old. I thought he was 40. We gotta call his cast aspired.
I would
I
love
think that's
to
just
see
a nice
clips
way of
that.
saying he wasn't right for the role. You're just too young, now that I see you butcher it.
This just isn't working. We're 10 weeks in.
After I've watched Queen of the Damned, I've decided you're not right old enough for this role.
This one's my favorite one. All right, so apparently David Bowie even auditioned for the role of King Elrond, but it went to Hugo Weaving, as we all know. But could you imagine David Bowie as King Elrond?
I would have liked to have seen it and then gone. I just want to see. I want to see that audition. That's what it is. I want to see that audition.
Somebody, any of you nerds out there, find us the David Bowie audition tape. Do it.
I found the Christian Bale audition tape. I can find that one. He did it in the Val Kilmer suit.
And the next, your next time, you're trying to figure out what the next one is.
I know, I don't remember what the last one. Oh, the opening scene in Return of the King was actually directed by Fran Walsh and not by Peter Jackson. Also, it was supposed to appear in the beginning of Two Towers.
How does she wind up? That's Fran
I don't
Jackson and Peter
understand.
Jackson
They
are
shoot it-
married. Right, that's the husband and wife, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, honey, I'm not feeling well today. Go direct
So
the
does
scene
she
for me.
get-
Yeah,
Part
go
of the
direct the scene
Oscar.
and then put it in the wrong movie.
That'd be good if I could do that. I'm not feeling well tonight. You direct tonight. Huh?
There's allegedly a scene.
has to be nice.
Hitchcock, when he was shooting Psycho, wasn't feeling well. He directed a scene via walkie-talkie from his trailer one day.
Yeah, I read about that.
Yeah, so there's ways of directing long distance. So you just put the trust in somebody else's hands. So I guess that's what he did.
Well, it didn't work out with that Psycho movie.
No,
Yeah.
never really went on to do much after
Vince
that.
Vaughn was terrible.
That's right. Yeah.
And then, last but not least, in the scene in the Two Towers where Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are running.
What kind of fan are you? I had to think about their names.
Sorry, they're running towards Fangorn Forest. Vigo actually has 2 broken toes from kicking an orc helmet.
Kicking an elf.
Kicking an orc helmet. Orlando Bloom has broken ribs from falling off a horse.
Oh, God.
And Gimli's stunt double actually had a knee injury. So when they're running on the plains right there, every single actor is injured.
Why did Gimli have a stunt double? Everybody else is running with.
He was
Oh, it's like,
short
wasn't
and-
that height in real
yeah.
life?
Because actually, he's taller than the other two.
I know it's solid. I know.
Yeah.
So
I just think it's interesting seeing their endurance, the fact that they were actually kept filming. Like, if I had broken ribs, I don't think I'm going to be running across a field today.
Hey,
Sorry.
man, Theodore,
My paycheck, to be perfectly honest.
Theodore Roosevelt, when he was running for president for the second time, was shot in the middle of a speech, took a moment break, and went back to making a speech. So it can be done.
Yeah,
Now that was a man.
So now we're gonna
I'll brush this off in 5 minutes.
There's nothing to believe.
He'll be in Expendables 3.
He will be. Holograms. Only
We are
holograms.
going to segue now into a segment that I'm throwing off completely to Peppercorn Montgomery. Peppercorn
Has the world gone mad?
We're going to review movies that are animated from the 70s.
What? Oh, I'm right up for what's going on. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, so first, no, it's,
I thought he was going to introduce you.
okay.
No, this is Tim.
All right, Dave, shut up.
Okay,
Tim,
we have
go.
to talk about The Hobbit. Okay, well, first, The Hobbit, which was made in, what, 77, if I remember right, or 78? I should have made notes.
Precedes which came Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit animated came first.
The Hobbit.
Hobbit is the first
actually,
one.
and then
The second was
2 years later, they did Lord of the Rings, and then a year after that, Return of the King. This was done by Rankin Bass. It was done as a musical, actually, and the music is actually pretty good. I mean,
I'll tell you this music.
and they actually, Peter Jackson, I don't know why he didn't look at this. I mean, they did The Hobbit.
It is a really good adaptation.
Yeah, it is and it's an hour and a half.
In the whole story. An
Not
hour and a
that-
half.
I mean, I don't have a problem with
Everybody was happy.
slightly extended. Everyone was happy and stuff. It's actually a fantastically animated movie. It's an interesting style of animation.
Did Don Bluth didn't do this? It looks like.
No, I don't think so. It was Rankin Bass was the company that did it.
Yeah. Okay.
John Huston, famous, brilliant actor, was the voice of Gandalf.
And director.
Yeah, and a great director. And it's a fantastic little film. It's great. It's great for the kids if you have kids that love the Lord of the Rings. and
Captures the
Hobbit and
essence
all
of
this
the
stuff.
story.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun. It's much more G-rated than the actual movies, the PG-13 movies are. And I used to watch this all the time as a kid, obsessively. It was up there
Agreed.
with rewatching Star Wars over and over again and every single Godzilla movie. So it was definitely up there. And it was after this that they made, I don't know if we have the next one, is the Lord of the Rings. It was actually, this was Ralph Bakshi, who...
Look at that film.
Some people love Ralph Bakshi, some people hate him. He was He was an animator in the 70s and stuff like this. He did Wizards, I think, was his big one, and I think he worked on the first Heavy Metal.
He did work on the first Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
'Cause
He has a very unique and particular style of animation.
That's why they hired him for
Do something.
Heavy Metal.
It's got sort of a lot of edge, and it's not a clean look. This adaptation was very strange, and he uses a lot of different animation styles. Just standard animation,
It was
rotoscoping.
almost like an anthology of like. He just did so many different things. Because I remember
Yeah.
watching this, and I actually watched it again. 'cause
He
it
even
was-
used actual film footage.
Yeah.
It wasn't even animated at all. He just He just took out the orcs in particular are actually just guys, and they just are completely blacked out, and all you see is like their glowing eyes. They're freaky as heck.
This terrifying. Actually, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It was very weird, but it was good.
They were very tight with him on the budget. He did go over, but they had promised him he would get to do the follow up to it, because this one it's about a little over 2 hours long, and it covers up to the story right up to the end of the Two Towers, or right
it's
at
the
that.
Fellowship, but with a little bit of the Two Towers in it.
Yeah, it's got the whole battle.
Helm's Deep battle?
The whole Helm's Deep. The movie ends right at the end of the Battle of Helm's Deep.
I remember hearing in the Lord of the Rings commentary, the Fellowship of the Rings, that Peter Jackson did cite the animated film as being an influence in terms of how he's as far as how he staged some shots.
Yeah.
So when I was watching it, I was reminded.
45 minutes short to his actual film.
There's some moments you'll see that just ring entirely true to the Peter Jackson trilogy, and so it was actually good. But then they apparently Ralph Bakshi was exceptionally difficult to work with. The studio did not like him, so they did not let him finish with the Return of the King. So they went back to Rankin Bass and had them do their version of the Return of the King, which went back to being a musical, and went back to being
after two non-musical movies.
Well, no, the Hobbit was a musical. And actually
wasn't the Fellowship and the Two Towers was different, right?
Well, this was all one movie. Lord of the Rings covers, the first book and then most of the second book.
But they just did it in two films.
No, one film. One film for this, and then Return of the King is a different film by different animators. Return of the King.
I'm sorry, I got lost with that one.
Okay, well, do I talk too fast for you?
No,
I talk too fast for a lot of people. So anyway, Return of the King, which was made by which went back to being made by Rankin Bass. Now I'm confused. Came out about a little about a year and a half, maybe 2 years after the Lord of the Rings one, and it confused a lot of people. So it was
an awesome poster.
Yeah, that was the Lord of the Rings. That was a great poster. So Return of the King was kind of a bomb. And if you've seen the movie, it's the same thing as The Hobbit. I mean, it takes what Peter Jackson did in 4 hours and does it in about an hour and 20 minutes. So it really centers on the Sam Frodo thing, and I kind of like the approach they did in that, because it's I don't know, it's not as it's bleak. It still has the bleakness of there, and it's mostly Sam taking over, but it doesn't make Sam such this glowing, angelic figure that Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson was in love with the Samwise character. I mean, Samwise in this version actually does get taken over by the ring slightly from excessive use when he's trying to help Frodo out, and there's different things. But it confused people because it was just like it didn't look like the prequel, the previous film. It followed off The Hobbit. It was all over the place.
So how would you rate, from best to worst, the animated films?
The best of the animated, The Hobbit is my favorite of the three animated.
Definitely.
Followed by The Lord of the Rings, and then Return of the Kings.
Law of diminishing returns, apparently.
Yeah, definitely diminishing returns. It was hard to find. I found it years later. I didn't even see it.
Return of the King?
Return of the King I only saw probably about 10 years ago because it was so hard to find. It misses.
It's like when movies like that are that bad, you can't find them because
why
would you put out a crappy film?
Let's mass produce something nobody wants.
Because it's marketable. If there's a market for it, it will be released. Showgirls 2 just came out through a while now releasing.
Wait a minute, what?
Showgirls 2?
The guys releasing Caesar and Odyssey of the Xmas released Showgirls 2.
Tell me it's the same director because his career bombed after that, didn't it?
Paul Verhoeven? No. It's a small film done by somebody who had a few lines. Somebody
You're thinking Joe Esterhaus.
Somebody who had I'm listening to a book written by Joe Esterhaus in my car right now. This is my talking book, literally. So no, the supporting it's a book that he wrote. He's narrating. The supporting character from Showgirls 1 made Showgirls 2. It's out there now, but we've completely gone off the tracks.
Who's the supporting character from Showgirls?
I'll have to look it up. Okay, so now I want to go into our Guess Who segment. If we could throw out the picture of...
Is it Elizabeth Berkley?
I really hope it is because I can nail that one.
Very well
somebody from 1921.
So
it is, of course.
Okay, so now...
That's Louis Armstrong.
You're right. It's Louis Armstrong. Guys, this has nothing to do with our theme today. It was just an interesting picture that I found online, and I didn't even put two and two together. Think screwball comedy.
Is
it? That's all you're going to give me? Screwball comedy?
Yeah, it really doesn't really help.
Thank you,
Leslie
Nelly.
It's like half the stuff in my DVD rack, so...
Is it Nelly Nells? You look good as a man. The doctor
was
did
quite
amazing
handsome.
Come on,
work.
Dave, give me one more.
Think.
Jerry Horror. It is Jerry Horror.
This is a great picture. I want this on a bumper sticker.
Look at the shame. On
Wait,
Dave's
no,
face.
go back. Forget that picture. Go back to the other one.
That's messy.
You want to see Dave's boobs?
It's not
hitting the table again.
It's not either Jerry Horror or me, honestly.
It just
We
was.
should have just stuck
Okay,
with
I
it.
was
so-
wondering those pictures from that bathhouse were going to
Think
come
of
out.
trios.
Trios? Is that Mo?
No.
Is it Larry?
Maybe.
Getting close.
Is it Curly?
Curly Joe.
I just went. Is that Shemp?
Yes.
Thank you.
Real. There he is. That was a young.
Time is a cruel mistress.
That's Shemp Stooge?
That's right. I always said this. I thought that
Look at how calloused his face ended up.
Shemp had always had a Robert De Niro quality to me. You know, look at that. Like I can imagine.
Yes, exactly like him.
Yeah, well, it's like the goofball Robert De Niro. You talking to me?
You should have said Screwball Comedy Trios.
Well,
He did eventually.
Well, okay, so now this past week I got to see The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug with our other Heather. Heather. However you say her last name. And we shot a little review of it while we were at the theater. So I would like to.
You shot in your car?
No, at the movie theater. So here's Heather's review of
Legal to have videotapes
The Hobbit.
Not in the lobby.
What movie did you just watch?
That one. The Desolation of Smaug.
And what did you think about it?
Not enough Elijah Woods. Decent amount of Smaug.
Do you realize there wasn't any Elijah Wood in this film?
How much Elijah Wood do you think needs to be in the next installment?
All of him.
Full Monty, on a scale of 1 to 10, how'd you rate the film?
I don't do scales.
Once you go back to the gym, you won't be afraid of scales.
Wait, did you just call me fat? I liked the different stories that when you got kind of like bored of one story, like we're just starting to get like into it just enough, it would cut away to like a different aspect of the story. Like Gandalf the Grey and that cool little brown wizard that has the birds living on his head and how they're going after Sauron and the elves. You know what? The Hobbit was better. This one really just felt like we were just waiting for the climax and waiting for the climax the entire movie, and at the end of the movie, when we're finally going to get it, the movie ends.
But you're just saying that because there's no Elijah Wood in this film.
True.
Lastly, are you looking forward to the next one, or could you care less at this point?
At this point, they have made me care so much that I can't not see it. Also, there might be Elijah Wood in the next one.
You've got to do something about this Elijah Wood problem.
Interview over.
Our review, if we could throw the trailer up for the original Hobbit film. It came out last year. And I'm going to throw it over to Nelly Nells for her to tell us her thoughts on The Hobbit and where it fits in terms of quality to the whole series.
Okay. I did enjoy the first film, but there was lots of things that pissed me off about it.
Pissed you off?
Yes. Dwarfs with not enough beard. That
What?
pissed me off. Dwarves, they didn't have enough beard. They had short.
I can agree with that. I just didn't hear what you said. I like that. That's a good complaint.
That bothered me. The fact that there was so much more CGI, that bothered me because those orcs in the original Lord of the Rings were amazing. They scared the crap out of me. What was this white orc CG crap? Driving nuts. The whole thing of the white orc. Who is he? Where did he come from? But generally, I did like the movie. I liked how they redid the songs and everything as compared to the animated film. I liked how they redid those and they kept those in. And I thought that was really interesting. I liked how playful the dwarves and things were, but I still don't think it quite holds up to the
By the
first.
way, this is the trailer for the new movie?
Yes.
But it's okay. We're only going to play the trailer for The Desolation of Smaug. Don't worry about the previous one. So this is the only Hobbit trailer we'll be playing during the I was watching the
You see?
trailer. I'm
Not
like,
enough beard.
yeah, I was watching the trailer. I'm thinking this looks a lot like the new one. Okay, now this is the only trailer we'll be playing for this. Okay, so yes, continue, my dear.
You know, also in the first part of it, You know, I also don't like the fact that it is being dragged out to 3 movies. The Hobbit is such a tiny little book.
The Hobbit's the length of an individual Lord of the Rings book?
The Hobbit is probably shorter than the first Lord of the Rings book. It's a small book.
How long it would...
You read it in middle school.
Take it to read? It would take, what, 5 hours to read in one sitting? Maybe that, if that?
Yeah, probably. But that's why I feel
That's
like
what I never
very
understood.
dragged out.
Why 3 movies for this? Because I know how short that book is.
It's a cash grab. There's another. They basically working in another book, and I totally blanking on the name of it. Which the other book is essentially the the
Silmarillion.
Yeah,
And the
Silmarillion.
appendices. Yes,
There's
I know.
appendices. They put
Yes.
in all.
There's another book?
The
There is.
Silmarillion is basically
And it's
the
our job to find
encyclopedia
it.
of. The Silmarillion is like the
the biplane,
encyclopedia
Tim.
of
Yeah.
Middle Earth. It literally reads like an encyclopedia.
It is.
Wait.
And there's the appendices.
So is that pre-Hobbit? Or this came out?
Yeah,
all
when
in
was this-
between,
when was
yeah.
this written?
All of it. When was it written? I couldn't
I mean, so it came out, the chronology, The Hobbit was written, then this
The Hobbit was written
dictionary
first,
thingy
yes.
that you're talking about, and then
And
the
then it was-
Lord of the Rings. And now the movie's obviously going in reverse chronology where this becomes the prequel.
Right.
Well, I think, it might just be because there's too much time between me seeing Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but there's something... I have a harder time saying this about the original Hobbit film, but I think I might prefer these to the Lord of the Rings. Because for one big reason, I like the tone a little better, and I like Martin Freeman as the lead better, and that's enough to kind of engage me in the story more than I'm doing. But you're right. I mean, the first one, like the one that came out last year, had a lot of animation that people were unhappy with. It was like a 48 frames per second animation that looked very cartoony.
Yeah, they used
I saw it
that
in the
different
new high frame
double
rate.
the high frame rate film.
Terrible to watch in the high frame rate. I liked the movie way better when I watched it.
Yeah.
Again, just normally.
The first one?
Yes.
I mean, I enjoyed it for a while. I know we covered this on a previous episode, but I felt like I enjoyed it for a while, and then it lost some of the momentum. You know, obviously that's going to happen when you have a book that's yay big and you turn it into 3 movies. But that really brings us, unless Tim, there's anything that you want to mention specifically about
the first Hobbit. No, I liked the first Hobbit, and I felt that there was a need for the tone to be different because the tone in the book is so different. And I go back and watch the past episode now that the YouTube thing is fixed. And you'll hear all my thoughts. But I was a fan of the first Hobbit movie. I'm a fan of these movies, and I think the major reason that they use so much more CGI in this one is because he's trying to fit the characters to the descriptions of the original Hobbit movie, where they're less scary, I guess. There's less intensity and there's action and stuff like that. So I think that was the reason I think that the cave trolls could speak and stuff like that, as opposed to in Lord of the Rings where they're just menacing psycho beasts.
Now, the film that just came out, Decimation of the Slug, let me just give you my thoughts and I'll throw it over to you guys. Joe is excluded from this conversation because he hasn't seen this movie.
That's okay, I'm playing Quiz Up.
It's okay, Joe. And I liked it. I definitely... As I say, I feel like with a lot of these Lord of the Rings, Hobbits movies, they're films that I enjoy while I watch them, but I don't really have the desire to watch them multiple times. I think technically it's very well done. I liked the new elements. I liked the new characters. I'm amazed that they could take what's essentially a very small piece of the book and pretty much justify its runtime. I didn't really feel like there was much padding on this movie, and I was thoroughly anticipating that. Because I know one of the criticisms when the previous Hobbit movie came out was they told a lot of the book what's left for them to do, and I never felt throughout watching this that it's just they're stuffing. It's not like watching Phantom Menace. It's guys, this scene really doesn't have to be there. And
say that about a lot of the movie.
And Martin Freeman, I think, is a good lead. Actually, he didn't anchor the film as much as I anticipated.
Not in this one, no.
The dragon is a great part of it. There's never really been a Lord of the Rings. There's never really been when the movie was over, there was a feeling from the audience like, oh, that's it? It's done? And
No.
when has there ever been a Lord of the Rings movie that has a solid conclusion, maybe sans Return of the King, which had a weird ending, but they're always left with some kind of soft ending, meaning that it's not like concrete done, that's the ending. So anybody who's like goes into a film like this knowing what's preceded it and act like this ending's not definitive is, it's just not being realistic with their expectations. I liked it. It's probably the one I might go out on a limb and say, because I'm not a huge fan of the series, this might. I put it second to Two Towers.
I might hate you.
Why?
Just a little bit.
So you hate me for saying that?
Oh, that it's better. That you put that second to Two Towers, really?
The Two Towers. This one.
Okay. I don't get it. But
She thinks you're wrong, Dave. Just put it out there.
Well, you have an affinity to the source material. I don't.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's very true.
it's a different experience. So okay, now let's go. I mean, there's other.
All right, for mine, for
other
the second
thoughts that I
movie.
had.
For the second movie, the best part of it for me was actually Smog. I loved the voice, which I did not look up before I saw the movie. Could have sworn it was Tim Curry. Swear it sounded like him. It sounded so much like him.
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry?
As Smog?
He was an
That's what it
actor.
That guy
sounds
from
like.
Home Alone too.
Okay.
Okay.
I could have sworn he sounded like him. I did like his whole.
No,
I did like his whole.
that was me talking to the technical
Demeanor.
director.
What else? I did like the elf chick. She drove me crazy. She doesn't really exist either. So that's probably why she drives
She's
me
an
crazy.
addition. She's an addition. She's not in the book.
No, she does not exist.
No, she's an
There's no
added character.
dwarven love story. There's no none of that.
There's no dwarf.
It's all lies.
Lies.
It's all lies.
It didn't seem to stick out though.
No, I did like that they fit it in, just like Legolas isn't really in The Hobbit either.
By the way,
but
Orlando
his
Bloom
story
looks
made
ripped
sense.
in this
What they were
movie.
doing made sense because you do
Was
go to
that?
Mirkwood, you do meet his father, you do meet those
let me get to
elves.
my-
So, but that whole thing, it fit well. But my other favorite part was the barrel scene. Barrels were great.
Oh,
The barrels were pretty great.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
it is.
Yay.
I'm too distracted by the chat room. I'm getting thrown up. Okay, so yeah. So what do you think, Tim?
I liked the movie overall. I think I actually liked the first Hobbit a little better. This one, the pacing was definitely up and it moved along and stuff like this. I love Martin Freeman as an actor. I watch him in pretty much everything that comes around. Sherlock and every other little thing he's in, which I, of course, had to mention in the movie theater when I was watching it, that it was Sherlock talking to Watson as a dragon and a hobbit. That amused me. It doesn't have to amuse you. But overall, the things I liked about the film was I thought they just bowled right through Mirkwood Forest really quickly. And I thought that needed more time. The adding Legolas and the female elf, whose name totally escapes me, didn't bother me. It was definitely an added-in thing, sort of, because there's no women in the Hobbit storyline. You had to add some in. If you want to sell tickets, you need to have females in your movie. And it's better if they're strong and likable and stuff like that. The thing that actually, of the added things that bothered me, there's orc attacks every 5 seconds. And, the orcs are chasing them, and that is part of the story, and that makes sense. But it's literally like every time they stop, there's another gaggle of orcs, and they're endless. They're like nonstop. The barrel ride and stuff was a great scene and stuff like this, but the whole time, in the original story, it's just quite literally a barrel ride till eventually they escape. But this, there's orcs fighting them the whole time. They go to the lake town, there's orcs there. They go to this place, there's, it's like orcs are everywhere. They're infested with orcs. I actually loved the ending, though. And of all the Lord of the Rings movies, they've always had that sort of soft, and here comes, this is the end, but there's more. But this one was just kind of, this ending was just like Smog flies out, and it's just like, I'm going to destroy everything. The end. And that's about it. It's just like, throw up to be continued, and we're out of here. And I thought it was just very abrupt. It wasn't sort of a neat, soft ending, but there's more type of thing. Like, I feel like the other Lord of the Rings movies had, and even the first Hobbit movie had.
Oh, I did think there was a lot of really great set pieces, with the spider. I mean, with the
spider
was a great sequence. The barrel definitely was pretty amazing. But what I don't get is it obviously bends the reality of what we know people can do. Why does it work here versus, like, say, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when there's a bending of reality?
Because we're in a mythical world. Indiana Jones is supposed to be more or less on Earth. Basically be, he's a human on Earth in the 40s, or this one was, the 60s?
But also just the staging of the fighting between the sword play and what have you, between one car and another. There's just something, it seems far more at that level of stretch, even though it is a fantasy world. Just the way that it was done just seemed more acceptable here for something that's completely outlandish and completely unrealistic.
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, when you make the characters in your movies something other than just humans, you make them superheroes, or you make them hobbits or elves, or whatever they are, you suddenly automatically have more of a license to get away with stuff than if you just make him a guy living in the 40s.
That's right.
If it's a guy living in the 40s who was raised by apes, you've now added something that would give you a sort of level of explanation for why he can do things that are sort of beyond normal human ability. Or, he's an alien, so this is, when you add that in, you can get away with a lot more. If Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, you have, standard humans, a kid from the 50s, and a Russian soldier woman sword fighting across two jeeps, flying through, all of a sudden it's just like it's a bad remake of the scene from Return of the Jedi when they're speeding through on the speeders through the forest. It just does. It feels just like that. But they're not Jedi, so you can't get away with it.
I would like to take a little time talking about some gaming. That's part of the wonderful part about having Nelly Nells here is that you were talking about live interact. Well, what is this game you're telling me about? RPG online?
Lord of the Rings Online. It's a free-to-play MMO now. And it's completely immersive. When you're playing it, you play through some of the storyline of Lord of the Rings, but there's all these other sections and everything that pulls the movies and the books together. So you really feel like you're in that world. Of course, you can make like a hobbit, an elf, man, dwarf, and you'll start out in places like Hobbiton or Rivendell. And actually, we don't start out. Maybe. But I've been playing this game for years. I play it off and on, and you get up to level 80. You could also have monster play. I have a small guild, Flagon of the Drunken Monkey.
Sounds like something else.
Is this a video game or a sex club?
Yeah, it's a PC video game.
Oh, it's a little bit of both nowadays.
I was confused. I didn't know if I was supposed to react.
Yeah, but if you're definitely a fan of the movie or a fan of the books, and you like video games, I definitely suggest checking it out. When I tell you it's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen, just all the detail in it. There's all kinds of dragons and just different little things that happen that are spectacular. I also bought some of my old PS2 games.
Talking about video games, Joe, pay attention.
Yeah.
Not paying attention over there? No?
So, what, I mean, I've never played these. I've seen these, but I haven't played
this one, Two Towers, is just, it's like playthrough of the movie that you can play as any of the Fellowship. But both of these, you can play with anybody of the Fellowship. They were on PS2. I'm sure you could play them, you could probably get them online for PS3 now.
Isn't the first game a combination of the first two films?
Yes. No, the second game is
the second
game is a combination of the first two films. And then the third age, this one was my favorite one because this one was where all your characters became customizable. So if you needed more, if you need more DPS or if you need more melee, you need more magic, you can you go through all of the 9, and as you're playing different levels, you can take out different people to finish beating whatever level you're playing. These were a very big part of
Joe's been a little neglected here
childhood.
for a couple of moments here, and I'd like to bring him back into the fold here. Joe, from my understanding, you're quite a gamer yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in the middle of playing any number of games currently.
Yeah.
Well, so what are you currently up to, my friend?
I'm currently still playing Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
How long does it take to get through a game like that? That's like one of those.
Well, what do you just story-wise? Story-wise, probably take about 6-7 hours. Problem is, not problem, but the thing about a game like that is they fill the world like they just got being a pirate down to a science and just you run with it. It's fantastic. I don't know what to tell you. It's amazing. So you do all these side missions where you can go overtake forts and everything like that, and you can go whaling, which is awesome. You get to kill and like spear a whale, and you hang it up. The PETA people are really pissed about it, but it's still funny.
At least it's not real whale, though.
Huh?
It's not real whale.
No,
you get a real whale when
you get a real whale. When you kill as many whales, Sony actually sends you
a coupon, and then they bring you a whale of your choice. What did you choose?
I don't know, Tim, you're our background right now.
What? Did you want to know what the tie is? Is that what this is about?
Yes.
It is. It's.
That's a hell of a tie. I was going to say I really like that.
It's the Looney Tune folks dressed up for Christmas. As Christmas is next week, so I thought I would add a little Christmas. I give up. I give up on all of you people.
He's got a great tie.
Taking my book and going home.
But I've been playing mainly playing Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. I've been also playing Call of Duty Ghosts. I just like those games. And I'm currently just beating the crap out of Batman Arkham Origins, which if you haven't played it and you're a Batman fan, you're lost.
Nobody likes Batman.
Wait, what?
So now, have you, Nelly? Have you played Assassin's Creed? Have you guys? Have the rest of you played the game?
I don't have what's called time.
I just got time back.
Yes, Joe just finished his show, which I saw on Sunday, which was lovely. I don't know, is that the right type of
Lovely.
No, it was a very good show, and it was very interesting and engaging and stuff, and Joe did an excellent job.
Thank you, Tim.
Joe, so what kind of character? I know nothing about this play. I've been tied up.
Didn't I invite you to it? Thanks for showing up.
I don't even think I got an official invite.
I'm glad I'm sitting next to my real.
Stay tuned for after this when we have group sessions.
I played a racist in 1945.
Nice.
I was a sheriff of a town. Somebody that I loved came back, but she was in love with a black man, and I didn't like that. Sorry, Nelly.
He didn't like that.
What do you like?
If he quotes, it means. But it was very good.
I ran for 3 weeks in the city, did a hell of an experience, and I'm really happy it's done.
Now, last week we had a show on the X-Men, and because Joe was doing the play, he wasn't able to call in. He was going to give a rant, and the show felt incomplete. So consider this the bookend, because Joe wanted to go full throttle on X-Men 3 and his thoughts. So, Joe, I would just love to hear what you hated so much about X3.
What did you love most about it?
The Juggernaut.
Yeah.
I always, one of my favorite things to talk to Tim about is what's your biggest box office letdown? What was a movie that when you saw the trailers, read about it, it sounded great, and when you go and see the movie, you're like, oh, they lied to me. There was nothing but a horrible lie. And there's one of the movies that always comes up when we talk about this is and will always be X-Men 3, because the trailer is better than the actual film. In that trailer, you are given the notion that, one, we're going to finally get to see Sentinels. That's the biggest thing. They showcase the hell out of a scene, and that's the scene they showed in the trailer is literally the only thing. You don't even see it, it's just a head, you know? And you're seeing all these things.
It's the movie, too.
Exactly. And it leads you to believe all these things, and it's the last stand, and you got this really cool visual of them like they are going to go to fight and everything, and the movie just fails on every. First of all, I don't know how they can have a last stand. They kill off half their characters in the first 5 minutes of the movie. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, they're just disintegrate. This was the era of when they would just disintegrate people, because in Spider-Man 3 they just disintegrated Venom. Made no sense. And they were like, oh, they go into dust. Professor X, they disintegrated him. You know, that's what happens. And, you know, it sounded so awesome because as a fan, you're like, oh, the Dark Phoenix, like this mega storyline that if anybody who's ever picked up an X-Men comic book in their life has heard about this story. And at the end of X2, which was a great film, when she's all playing, you know, trying to help, you're like, oh man, I can't wait for the third one to come out. It was like seeing Batman Begins when he flips over the card and like, oh, the Joker cut. I'm going to look into it. You're like, I can't wait to see the sequel. Difference is that movie delivered. This one fell short so bad because it was just...
It'd be like if in The Dark Knight, the villain was the bookworm.
Exactly.
After the ending of Batman Begins and the bookworm showed up.
Oh my God, that's a horrible villain. We got to do worst villains of all time one day.
It's got to be.
But it's Vincent Price. It was that awesome. But the movie just didn't deliver. It just and they just bastardized characters left and right. And like the whole thing with the Juggernaut. It was just like, I love Vinnie Jones, but what the hell were they thinking? And all of a sudden there's a cure. There's just a cure out of nowhere. That's what it is. Oh man, we just developed this. You're about 5 years too late. Like what the hell, man? Where have you been up to? Like it makes no sense. It's just the plastic weapons thing and all of it. Like they did rip some things from the comic book. I did the whole thing.
Very few.
They did what they ripped.
Very few.
Very few.
I was very disappointed.
It blew my mind because X2 is so. They kind of. I mean, it was more based on a Wolverine comic book. Yeah. It was, but it was still like I remembered reading that and like the whole thing with William Stryker. That was very faithful. And then because Ratner directed this because Singer was doing Superman, or was it the other way around?
Ratner directed the third one because
Singer went to do Superman.
Returns.
And you would think at the time, like Ratner versus Singer, like no contest. Actually, now that I think about it, I think X3 is slightly better than Superman Returns, but it's like the best of the worst, so it doesn't matter. But
I refuse to sit next to you when you say such things.
But it's just you'd think like Ratner is going to do this, he's going to do this great, and he just took the movie made no sense. Like the whole thing with
about it, the Rush Hour trilogy, made you believe that this was going to be a good movie?
No, it's
Tim,
Red
you
Dragon,
know that trailer was like
Red
Dragon. That trailer was. This is the problem.
The trailer was.
Marketing has become so good. They are so good at it that no matter what movie you can make a trailer that could sell anything. You could take the trailer to Schindler's List and probably make it seem like it's the most exciting, family-friendly action movie
you probably
ever.
could. Yeah.
I challenge you, people of the internet, to make that trailer. Oh, Matt's got a tidbit.
Got a tidbit?
We're all ears.
I have actually seen
Are you
a
X-Men?
horror trailer to Mrs. Doubtfire.
I've seen that. Yeah, recut.
Yes, I've seen that too.
No, I'm glad you brought that up.
Talking about.
Yeah.
And
You recut Mary Poppins looks horrifying. That movie looks absolutely terrifying. It looks like an insane
I
movie
always
coming
thought
to
it was
steal children.
terrifying.
And You Got Mail has got an amazing trailer recut too, where it looks like a horror film.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. But that's my thing. And it was just
Tweak the music, change things.
It was just an awful letdown. It came out and it was like. It also came out around the same. The big three for me have always been Superman Returns, which was a huge letdown for me. X-Men 3, and then Spider-Man 3. They were just all awful.
Let's not even talk
I
about
had
Spider-Man
no
3
expectations
like ever.
for Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 3 was another person, like the trailer. I remember talking to Lou about this, where he was just like, trailer is a movie in and of itself. Sure was, because damn sure was worlds better than what they put on screen.
Yeah, but you just kind of...
It felt the same way about how it felt rushed.
Give me the goddamn thing. Okay.
And
The
now
point I
we're
was trying to
reading.
get at is we've hit basically 11:30, which means that we've got a.
You've hit 11:32. There's no going back now.
All right.
I'm going to continue.
All-night show.
So everybody, it's been a wonderful
I have
2013. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next year, what would you like to see? Next year we're going to take on the first
You wanna
episode.
see
The
more
idea.
Nelly?
The idea is.
I would like to see a little less Nelly.
Really?
Oh
no, I'm sorry. I'm talking about Dave. I get you guys.
Guys,
But my pecs are bitter.
wrap it up so we can all hug it out in the arena.
So, you losers, shut up. Okay. Beginning of next year, we would like to take on Star Wars, Doctor Who. That's the opening episode of next year.
The original, the entire trilogy, the entire series,
Dark Knight
right?
trilogy.
The whole series.
No, original trilogy.
The original trilogy.
We'll have another day dedicated.
There are only 3 Star Wars.
That's a good answer.
A group day, like an episode where we could all have a real discussion for the prequel trilogy. But so we got Star Wars, Doctor Who, Transformers, Dark Knight trilogy, comic book talk, all this great stuff. If there's something that you're interested in, please
Don't
let
send it
us
because
know.
we don't care.
No, let us know on the Facebook page.
Or topless photos of Dave.
That is the best picture
I was in the
I've
control
ever
room
seen.
before
That's
the
Dave's
show.
look of my first day in prison.
That was in the control room on the first day of just before. I'm like, I was asking Matt, the technical director, why do you keep having that picture of Jerry and I on there?
How could you forget it? I was sitting next to you guys the whole time.
I've never vomited so much in my life.
Well, thank you, pal. Thank you very much. So,
It's back, yes. Can this be our permanent background from now on?
Your boobies.
I don't know.
This has to be a permanent.
See, you know what you could learn from Jerry? Jerry has no shame. Seriously. Go turn around and just do it.
I can. Wait, hold on. I can't. It's like
I've been motorboarded by Joe Winchell.
Thank you, Matt. Comic genius at best.
Okay.
So,
good night, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Watch many holiday specials.
Our archive is back. Tune in to all the episodes you missed.
I'm back.
And
Joe's
Joe is
back.
back, too.
Bye.
More Nelly.
Happy New Year.
More Nelly.
See you January 8th.
More Nelly.